can you please look up this site?
See if we can figure out something. Court does call the case of the people of the state of Michigan versus Jeffrey Penns.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. On behalf of Mr. Penns, who appears in custody to my right. How are you, Judge?
I'm good.
Yeah, thank you, and good afternoon, Your Honor, and staff. Thank you for allowing me to appear via Zoom. Jonathan Emmons on behalf of the people in this matter.
All right. This matter originally came up as filed by the public defender initially, an emergency motion to release or change the bond. In this case, there was then, I don't know if Mr. Margolis filed one or not, but maybe not. But then a stipulation in order to amend bond came over. The court has not signed that. All of this relates to a conditional bond violation, which occurred on June 29th, I do believe at 8:35, or I'm sorry, 18:35, in the city of Ann Arbor regarding contact and other things. So I don't know who wants to begin in terms of the stipulation, because the court had some questions regarding the stipulation specifically. Are these townhouses, or how are the houses right next to each other?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that
single family homes?
got it? And fundamentally, I guess the court's thing, because while I received the stipulation, I don't have much documentation to go along with that, which I had initially requested, I think, of the public defender. And then when you came in, Ms. Margolis.
I apologize. I was not aware. I have a neuropsych report, and I also have letters from the VA as well as Michigan Medicine relative to his cognitive disorders.
I'm not in terms of Mr. Penn's cognitive state. That is not an issue for the court. More an issue for the court is making sure that he can be released safely, number one, and where I don't want to set him up for further, I guess, difficulties where something happens and then he's had enough of a problem being arrested, brought in. I don't want to see that happen again. And so it's not an issue of questioning necessarily anybody's commitment to what's contained here. It's more satisfying myself that there's enough in place to stop that from occurring, because I think that probably causes much more of a stressor on Mr. Pence than anything else when this type of circumstance occurs. Most of my questions, well, one of the primary questions, I'll just say, from the police report I referenced was whether or not there are firearms in the home. And I think that has been answered by the affidavit of his wife.
There's no firearms.
No firearms at all.
No firearms at all. All right.
Never had firearms.
Got it. Okay. The daily care, I won't say care, but there's references in here that he'll be supervised around the clock. And I guess I need to be clear on how that's going to occur and what pieces are in place to make sure that happens.
Understood. So our initial, first, I'll let the court know that we being the family, they're on a wait list. He is on a wait list for Brecken Village Memory Care Center.
Got it.
He is also a veteran. He's a Vietnam veteran, and I bring that up because he has resources through the VA. If we are able to obtain his release, the first person we're going to go see is we're going to take him right to the VA hospital. Is that correct?
That is correct.
VA hospital emergency to have him checked to see if he needs to be admitted. He has an appointment with his primary. He had one yesterday, but that was
Is
reset.
this Miss Sanchez?
Yes.
Ma'am, I didn't mean to be you can come up to the podium.
Please.
You're
Sorry
the one,
about
you're the one that,
It's more
Yes.
important to hear from.
yeah. And can you state your name, please, ma'am?
My legal name is Juana Sanchez Pence.
All right. All right.
We also, so while we wait to hear, and she can let us know what the time frame is for Brecken Village. But we also have we have time respite care with the VA that's been approved for a certain number of hours per week. That I believe is going to be increased based upon our conversations with the
When
VA.
you're saying respite care, you mean around the clock in-home care?
Not necessarily from the VA. I wanted to be clear. I want to not give the court any false representations. We also have, because it's not 24-hour care from the VA respite people, we also have enlisted social workers as well as certain private caretakers.
Okay. Social workers are from,
Well,
Please stand.
yeah,
This is Miss Lutz, Melanie Lutz.
hello.
so I'm a retired social worker with a current license. I'm a longtime friend of James.
Got it.
And I've been helping.
Knows Mr. Pence, knows
Your Honor, I'm sorry. The last thing that I could hear was Mr.
Okay, Mr. Emmons, can you hear us now?
I can hear you now, Your Honor. Yep.
All right, very good. For
Video
whatever reason,
froze.
there's-
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what happened. All right. Ma'am, you were saying.
I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
It's okay. It's all right.
About the people you had in place to assist you if you needed to go to the store and
Yes.
the steps you're taking to make sure he's 24/7 supervised in arm's reach, so to speak.
Right.
Okay. So, and I guess I was getting to the point, because I couldn't remember my question either. I was getting to the point of this involving a neighbor. And that, and I don't know if you're aware of this. Part of the reason I was concerned about a firearm is because allegedly there was a threat that he was going to get a gun and shoot,
Who?
that Mr. Pence was. Okay,
Yeah.
I tell you that because I'm not asking these questions, or my concern doesn't sort of just come out of a vacuum.
I was not aware of that. Yes.
Yeah, okay, and so that's one of the reasons, for example, given his circumstances, I've been kind of deliberate in trying to act because I didn't know if there were firearms. I don't, and I'm trying to place where the houses are to each other, both for the safety of the neighbor, but also for the safety of Mr. Pence, because I didn't want a circumstance where he's there, somehow is unsupervised, then the neighbor comes over, figures nobody's doing anything, and does something to him. So just so that you know, I'm sorry, man, I did not know that you weren't aware that had been said and represented. And that's one of the reasons why it's kind of where it is now. Okay. You also may not have been aware, maybe again you were or not, that I guess he was over banging on the windows of the neighbors.
I was.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry that you're finding out this way. He was over banging on the windows, screaming at the neighbors. The neighbors, as I am gathering from the report, were screaming back. Mr. Pence allegedly responds that he's gonna, I think, end up shooting them up or something along those lines. Okay, and that's how we got there. Once, to be honest with you, for me, once initially upon reading that, I was very concerned. Once upon getting sort of preliminary information regarding Mr. Penn's conditions, both from the jail and from the public defender's office, my view of everything kind of changed. But I wanted to make sure that I was taking the proper steps and the proper things that were in place for the reasons I told you before, for his safety as well as the neighbor's safety. Let me ask you this, Ms. Spence. Is the neighbor aware of Mr. Penn's circumstances, or?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And I would continuously apologize when I heard my husband yelling at him due to noise. He's extremely sensitive to noise.
To noise.
My
Okay,
husband.
got
And
it.
he would yell at him, "Where you have that so noisy?" And he knows. All my neighbors know. All my nearby neighbors know. And so he knows, and I would apologize. I'm sorry. His situation. He's the noise upsets him, and this is what he does. And I would apologize to the neighbor continuously.
And some of them, I'm sure, as our world, are more accepting than others, right? Okay, all right. So, you said he was on a waiting list.
We are on a waiting list to move. We have to move. We're on a waiting list to move
You're gonna,
out of our home. We have no choice. Unfortunately, we have no choice. So we're moving, but we're on a waiting list. And so in the meantime, he's not going to go in that driveway.
and let me ask you this. You have no choice because of what?
Because I don't want him to get into another altercation. I just don't want him to get into another altercation with a neighbor. And that's the reason. Every old person wants to age in their home, but that's not going to happen. I have to move him because I don't want him to get into trouble again for something that he does due to his illness. And that's what we're going to do. I just don't want anything close for him to come here again.
Perhaps the court is wondering if there is supervised care with 24-hour, are you confident that there won't be any
I am
trouble?
confident right now there won't be. Yes.
And you want to get help with his care. And that's why you've contacted people. That's why Ms. Lutz is willing. You'll have support.
You know, how long have you been in your home?
I'm
How
sorry.
long have you and him been in your home?
Oh my goodness. Let me think back here. 87, 86, mid 80s, maybe 87, 85. Oh, 85. He retained numbers. I don't.
Bad memory, sir.
Amazing.
Good
Oh
memory.
my goodness.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
How long have the two of you been married?
I'm sorry.
How long have the two of you been married?
We were together for 7 years and we got legally married in 1988.
So a while.
A while, yes. We've had ups and downs.
As with all marriages, right? Okay. If we were to plot out a day, how do you see the care working for him? I mean, you'll be there most of the time, right? Is that the idea?
I will be there when there's caregivers as well, but I will
Right.
be there, especially when there's no caregivers. I have will line up caregivers for certain days, and that allows me to run the errands that I need to, but I will be there all the time.
Walk the judge through a particular regular day.
Yeah, that's what here's what I'm trying to figure out. And sometimes my questions maybe in this stuff aren't coming out clear. In a day, who do you anticipate being there? I mean,
Right now, I have assistance from the VA, and there's someone who comes on Tuesdays and Thursdays for 5.5 hours a day.
gotcha. On
And
2 days a week,
She comes there 2 days a week, and it'll be 7 and I hope to divide it into 3 days, 14 hours right now from the VA, and that will increase eventually. I'm talking to some people. And then I've got my girlfriend who's flexible. She's retired. She's a clinical social worker, so she's flexible. And I had an interview with another woman today from Divine Grace and Tender Care Home Care, and they will assist me as well. So I'll put a schedule on the days that Dawn, our caregiver, will not be there so that this other caregiver can be there on 5-7 hours a day, and then I'll be there on the afternoons, sort of like in the middle of the day. he gets up late, goes to sleep. He sleeps a lot. So I will be there during those hours and I'll put the schedule together so that when he has the waking hours, the caregivers are there.
Got it. Okay. Okay. And Mr. Margolis, you mentioned that he was going to go to the VA and he may be hospitalized. Is that?
So my understanding, and Mrs. Pence can bring this out further, but my understanding is that I talked to the VA today actually, and they said, well, just take him right to the ER and they will check him out. And if they don't believe he's quote fit to go home, they are going to hold him, is my understanding. Is that yours?
Okay, so let me.
Yeah.
Fit in which way? So,
Vitals are okay.
right. So physically, they would keep him if he's not able to go home. Right?
Is my
That
understanding.
would be, but mentally and cognitively, what's their posture on that? If he's not fine in that respect with them, are they going to keep him or?
Your Honor, I don't know if my husband has been taking his medications. He takes medications that help with the agitation
Got it.
as part of treating the symptoms of Alzheimer's. He takes medication for seizures. He takes medication because he had a heart attack. He takes medication for the agitation. So he takes quite a bit of medication, and I don't know if he's been taking the medication. And I was told by the doctor, just go ahead and take him to the ER, have him checked out real quickly, and see, I can take him home and start him on his medication regimen again.
Got it. Okay. Um. Let me. Just trying to think of a way to put this without you looking like a bad guy or me looking like, I mean, I don't, but I just need to know this information. If he goes home and he's at home, this one neighbor, what's your best guess as to their response? And here's the reason I'm asking. I'm not trying to say anybody's a bad person for that. What I don't want is I'm also trying to figure out, and I don't want to see happen, or at least have an understanding. I don't want him provoked to where he then responds. Did that make any sense?
I totally understand. The area where my husband can see the neighbor is only in the driveway area. We're going to stay away from the driveway area. In the backyard, there's a tall fence. They cannot see us. We cannot see them. He lives with his girlfriend.
Okay, so you have a privacy fence in the back?
Yes.
Wooden privacy fence?
Yes.
Got it.
And so the only area that is open and exposed is the driveway. That's the only area that's exposed.
And not to speak for Mr. Emmons, Your Honor, but I believe that Mr. Emmons did contact me, and that's why the driveway is actually part of that proposed, or the stip in the proposed order, because Mr. Emmons, and I'll let him speak, spoke to the neighbor, and that's what he said to me, is we need to keep him off the driveway as best we can. Is that right, Mr. Emmons?
That's correct, Mr. Margolis. I did have an opportunity to speak to the neighbor and the victim of both of these matters in anticipation of the stipulation. And I kind of tried to assess him out and where he's at, and with the understanding of what we could do to try and facilitate him coming back home until such a time that he could go to Brecken, whatever the facility is. And he said that the driveway seems to be the biggest thing. He was like, can you just keep him in the home? And I said, well, there might be, obviously he's going to have to leave the home for appointments and stuff, And he goes, the driveway seems to be like the biggest catalyst. That seems to be the thing where
Yeah,
the
but-
issues tend to arise the most often. And he said if he, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of forgetting. He said if he, like, I was like, well, what if he wanted to go for a walk with a caregiver or something? I, just kind of thinking, I guess if you were to go out the front door and go, I can't remember if it was left or right. But there was one way that he could go and he would not have any contact, would not have to cross in front of the neighbor's house. So as long as he stayed, that direction and stayed out of the driveway, he didn't foresee that there would be any problems. I mean, obviously, I think the complainant in this matter is going to be concerned no matter what, but I talked to him about that, and I wanted to make sure that he was, understanding and as comfortable as he could be. And I think this is what and he's the one that said, the driveway needs to be addressed.
But I've got some problems with that. And that is, and I these are separate driveways. So it's not like it's a shared driveway. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, and Mr. Emmons, maybe you can clarify it for me. Is it? I mean, if I release Mr. Penn's, what I'm concerned about is I'm not looking to restrict his use of his property because I, oh boy,
She had a
you're
comment.
right, go, because see, I'm gonna be, I'll try not to say what I'm really thinking, but what I'm really thinking is this. There are people that have difficulties on our planet and in our society. It doesn't mean that we get to just hide them. And if we don't see them, then feel better. We just don't get to do that. I mean,
I don't disagree with the court at all.
and you know what? And I know you're not down here, Mr. Emmons, but I'm just going to say this also. I see Miss Sanchez Pens up here, and as she walked up, I'm looking at the two of them look at each other. It seems to me, and this is a feeling, I might be wrong, she just loves him more than life itself and is willing to do anything. But I'm not going to place her in a position because I know she, just based upon the conversation, feels that she should be the one responsible for it. And I get that. But Mr. Pence, if he wants to walk on his driveway and say nothing to anybody, why can't he say that? Why can't he do that? Yes.
Your Honor, when I've heard my husband, I'm inside doing my things inside the house, and I hear a loud voice right next door. I see my husband, he may be yelling from the side of our driveway because the noise is loud. I quickly go downstairs and I get my husband, stop that. And he listens to me. Several times he listens to me. He goes to the backyard, we go inside. I get his agitation down. So that's not a problem. Now, I'm not going to allow him to be in the driveway by himself. I will be with him.
Okay, I get that. Well, but the way I read this stipulation, maybe that's my problem, is that he, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I read this stipulation is Mr. and Mrs. Pence can't be in the driveway at all.
So that was an added part after I spoke with Mr. Emmons. And it said they can transport as long as they can go to and from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't actually have it right directly.
So here's my problem with that. My problem with that is, how long was he in the service?
Sweetheart, how long were you in the Army?
How long?
He said 15 or 16 years. No,
Wasn't quite
no,
that.
no.
Okay.
Said hours, actually. You were in Vietnam, yes? George, you did one or two?
It doesn't matter.
Sorry.
He's a vet. It's okay. He's a veteran. My point to all of that is,
Your Honor,
I am not going to stop somebody that fought for this country from being able to walk up and down his driveway with his wife. I asked that order is not happening. Now, if I have to place an order that he can't yell at the neighbor, that he can't do this, then fine, that's fine. But I mean, right now I'm mad that they're going to have to move out of their home. I mean, I get it, and I get people have to make their life's decisions, but you're making the decision because others can't seem to understand him. And the very fact that they have the right to file the complaint is because of people like him that went and preserved your right to be able to do it. Something, maybe I'll step off my soapbox, but I'm just. All right. So somehow or another, this order needs to be refashioned because I'm not prohibiting him from going down the driveway. If what he thinks, and whether it be right, wrong, or indifferent, that he wants to take, let's say it's just a romantic stroll holding hands with his wife down the driveway, well, darn it, he's going to be able to do it.
Your Honor,
Yes, ma'am.
we have a garage, so the garage is narrow. So we actually I pulled the car out and then he goes in. So he needs to use the driveway temporarily.
Ma'am, here's my point. All right. And I hear you. I mean, you're going to do everything that you possibly can so this doesn't happen again. And I get that. But I'm not going to place you in a position where you're sitting there worried that if you're not exiting right at that moment, somebody decides, that's not going to happen. If he goes out and sits on a lawn chair in the middle of the driveway and does nothing, I don't care if anybody doesn't want to see him. If he's not doing anything to anybody, it doesn't matter to me. You follow me? I just have a very different approach to that. And I don't want to see you or the people that you would have come in trying to care for him in that position that if he wants to go out for driveway and all of a sudden he decides he's not going to listen and he's just walking down his own driveway, that's not going to be a bond violation. It's not going to happen. Now, I don't know, Mr. Emmons, are you going to feel comfortable? I mean, quite frankly, I can just order it, so it doesn't really matter, but I'd rather it be a circumstance where the neighbor could understand that I'm not ordering that. I will order him to stay off of his driveway.
Of course.
But I'm not ordering him to stay off his own driveway.
I think that the issue that we were trying to address, Your Honor, is that it seems that if the defendant becomes aware of the presence of the complainant, it almost acts as if some kind of an irresistible impulse. I can't say that I know Mr. Pence or Mr. Latotsky, the complainant in this matter. I don't know their entire situation. I happen to be the one that got the police report for the newest incident while I was on duty for the 4th of July. And so I'm the one that charged it. That brings me here. In speaking with Mr. Latotsky, that's the situation.
So is there another case?
There's a case out of there's a misdemeanor case. for the window, for the door window that happened on the 29th of June.
In Ann Arbor.
Yes.
Same
Yeah.
place.
Okay.
So, that's what the idea of the driveway was, is to try and prevent that, I'm just using the terminology, but that kind of irresistible impulse, so that, the victim doesn't feel like he needs to be confined to his home, and there's not some kind of, issue that's going to arise. It's kind of to try and put a plug in that.
And that's why I think, Mr. Emmons, we put that provision about not being unaccompanied on the driveway in the end of the stip.
Right. It says, defendant shall not be unaccompanied on the driveway at any time. I understood that there was going to be, that he would need to be, leave by way of the driveway. Like I definitely understood that. And
Well, hold it. I see the end, but it says it is further agreed and stipulated, defendant shall not make use of the driveway unless entering the garage to enter or exit the home. And then there's the provision about he should not be accompanied on the driveway at any time. And then is very specific that defendant may use driveway to enter and exit his garage for transport, but not be permitted to sweep it or otherwise remain on driveway.
So that's after I spoke with Mr. Emmons, as well as,
I get it.
just
I get it.
trying to
But
make people
I'm not signing that.
I think if the order
I'm
included
not,
that he's,
hold on.
sorry,
I am not signing that.
yeah.
So because I'm not going to restrict him in that way. I am not going to say he can't go out on his driveway. I'm not going to say that he can't sweep his driveway. If you want me to tell him he can't yell at the neighbors, I'll tell him he can't yell at the neighbors. But I'm not doing that. I'm not.
Well, I'm fine if Your Honor wants to just make a verbal order that I can.
But see, here's the thing. The problem that I have is I don't know Miss Pent, but I'll tell you, just in listening to her, she's going to do everything in her power to make sure what happens is the right thing. I just don't have a doubt. But she can't be, I know she can't be everywhere all the time. She's going to do it, give it her best shot. No doubt about it. But she can't be everywhere. And I just don't want a circumstance that if she slips up, but at the same time, if he's out there and is doing nothing, why is that a violation? It shouldn't be a violation. It just shouldn't be.
I don't
And
disagree.
so that part, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not signing that part. I mean, I don't have a doubt in my mind. Miss Pence, after talking with her, is going to, if he needs to be transported, she will get him out in the most efficient fashion, get him in and out. If she wants to take a walk with him and they want to go for a walk someplace down the driveway, that she's going to do it in that way. I'll put my trust in her before I put my trust in an order that says this. So
Understood.
I'm not signing that.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, folks, let's do it this way. Okay, let me just ask this, because again,